Satan's Choice member Lorne Campbell testified under protection of the Canada Evidence Act, and he confessed. He said he thought Mattiak was about to shoot him, so he blasted away.
Family's important, like the loyalty I've had, always have loyalty, but know who you are, that was me.
The story of Lorne Campbell is a remarkable one. During his time as a Satan's Choice and Hells Angels biker, he had numerous confrontations with the law, as well as acts of betrayal, and was a biker who went to extreme measures to protect his honor and that of his club, shocking everyone during the Port Hope 8 case. He was even willing to serve a life sentence so his biker brothers would ride free. That said, while he officially worked as an ironworker, his primary income came from an unusual source: debt collection, often involving a baseball bat and several broken fingers. But Lorne Campbell was more than just a tough guy. He had a charisma that attracted the ladies. A stint as a cigarette smuggler earning a staggering $3,000 a day, even the iconic Bernie the Frog Guindon couldn't resist him and personally sponsored him into the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club as one of its earliest members. Lorne was, and still is, the only Satan's Choice chapter president to have ever given a university lecture, and at the prime of his career, he even pleaded guilty to murder, yet the Crown refused to convict him. Continue watching as we dive deep into Lorne Campbell's origins, a dark and bloody history spanning nearly half a century, and how he forever influenced Canada's outlaw biker scene. Lorne Campbell's journey began in Whitby, Ontario. His family wasn't a typical one. Poverty and abuse were prevalent, with Lorne Sr. resorting to violence against his own children. Young Lorne Campbell grew up under the shadow of his father's fists, with his dad's vision for him to become a fighter. Yet despite the hardships and abuse, he held a deep admiration for his old man. To him, his father was perfect, just like the cinematic tough guys who he admired while growing up. But life took a harsh turn when Lorne Sr. continued to exchange love letters with Doris in England and eventually left his wife for her. The 8-year-old boy's world crumbled when his parents divorced, leaving him in the care of an indifferent uncle. A few years later, at just the age of 14, he was deemed unmanageable and sent to youth camps under the Ontario government's wardship. These weren't fun summer camps, they were brutal places filled with violence and abuse. Supervisors subjected Lorne to savage beatings, leaving him with physical and emotional scars. Barely surviving these horrific experiences, Lorne finally returned to his mother's custody in Oshawa. However, their living conditions remained far from ideal, and their apartment was run down. Campbell recalled, "I was embarrassed to bring a girl or anyone else to our apartment. I would never take anyone there except close friends." But amidst the darkness, there was a glimmer of hope, something that brought a smile to young Campbell's face: the Phantom Riders Motorcycle Club. As a teenager, Campbell couldn't help but marvel at the Phantom Riders, led by their charismatic president, Bernie Guindon. Every Saturday night, the club would roar down the streets of Oshawa in formation, leaving a lasting impression on the young man. In 1965, Guindon merged the Phantom Riders into a new club, the Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club. And soon enough, at just 17 years old, Campbell joined the club in the machoest manner possible. You see, Guindon hosted what he called his fight club in his Oshawa basement, where young men battled it out. It was here that Campbell showcased his fighting prowess, winning 2 boxing matches, impressing the club president enough to personally welcome him into Satan's Choice. A martial arts enthusiast, Lorne sported a tattoo that read, "The Gentle Art of Karate" in Japanese characters. Hells Angels boxer, Phillip, once said about Campbell, "He's got a really, really hard shot. He throws it like it's the last punch he'll ever throw." He stood out as one of the most aggressive members of the Satan's Choice during the 1960s. While the counterculture movement of the era preached peace and love, Lorne had a different perspective, a hatred for the hippies who looked up to outlaw bikers. He believed in toughness and wasn't one to advocate for peace. In 1974, his relationship with his then girlfriend led to a breakup, and he lost custody of his daughter. It was the same year that marked an even darker turn in his life as he teamed up with fellow Satan's Choice member, John. Together, they entered the world of debt collection for the mafia, intimidating individuals behind on debts owed to loan sharks and drug dealers. They did so in exchange for keeping 50% of the debts once the debtors paid up. Typically, most of their days began with breaking their victims' fingers to motivate them to pay up. Lorne's perspective on his work was unapologetic. "I collected money for people. I just looked at it like they were playing a game. They're not innocent people. They were aware of the consequences. I was totally without remorse. They chose to be in this world." Life for Lorne Campbell was anything but dull. Brawls, women, and money were all he really needed, and he enjoyed them during his stay at the Oshawa chapter clubhouse. One incident involved a warning from the club president about Lorne's public displays of affection. It seems that on multiple accounts, Campbell and his girlfriend were fond of fornicating on the front lawn, causing quite a stir among club members. Unfortunately, stability wasn't his strong suit. Lorne's path within Satan's Choice took a rocky turn when he locked horns with the new national president, Garnett McEwen. We're talking about a serious demotion here, from full patch member to prospect. In 1976, after Bernie Guindon's conviction on drug charges, Campbell found himself in an open feud with McEwen, who he openly disliked. He didn't hold back words, calling McEwen a fat, stinky guy, with an appearance straight out of a dirty and filthy 1950s biker movie. Things escalated, leading to a makeshift trial, where Garnett pushed for Campbell's expulsion. Fortunately, Campbell's popularity among club members worked in his favor. The jury of his peers opposed expulsion, but agreed to demote him from a full patch member to a prospect. This was a tough pill to swallow, but things took an even darker turn when Campbell's partner, John, was murdered by another Satan's Choice member, John Harvey. John's violent death left Campbell on his own as a debt collector, making him increasingly distrustful of those around him. However, it was one of Campbell's many alcohol-fueled brawls that would forever change his life. At a party in 1976, he punched out William, the Golden Hawk Sergeant at Arms, a humiliation that William never forgot nor forgave. This incident would snowball into one of the darkest chapters in Canadian justice history, the infamous Port Hope 8 case. William was a man known as the town bully in Port Hope. He was a giant of a man at 6'3" and 300 pounds, equipped with a volatile temper, a penchant for firearms, and a reputation for violence that had the people of Port Hope living in fear. Mick Lau, an American journalist, famously referred to William as a walking, talking, one-man arsenal, due to his habit of carrying illegal weapons like a sawed-off shotgun and a pistol. 2 years later, on the night of October 18, 1978, at the Queen's Hotel, Brian, an associate of Satan's Choice and a known drug addict, had a violent encounter with William, who kicked him out of the hotel. Seeking revenge, Brian reached out to the Peterborough chapter of Satan's Choice, alerting Richard Suave to William's presence at the Queen's Hotel, drinking with Outlaws Fred Jones and Sonny Bronson. Richard, aware of the potential danger, contacted Campbell, assembling a team that included Gary, Jeff, Larry, and Armand. They embarked on the journey to Port Hope. Campbell, confident in his firearm skills, brought along a handgun. Inside the Queen's Hotel, William, fueled by alcohol, boasted loudly about shooting the Satan's Choice members, displaying his handgun with arrogance. He claimed to have 9 friends with him, a cryptic threat hinting at 9 bullets in his firearm. When Campbell arrived on the scene, William remembered their previous encounter and initially tried to conceal his weapon, but then suddenly raised it. In a swift, heart-pounding exchange, Campbell reacted first and fired 3 shots. The first bullet struck William's neck, the second penetrated his skull, and the third followed suit. One of the bullets also struck Camus, seated beside William. Hell erupted as waitresses rushed to the ladies' washroom and terrified spectators fled. Meanwhile, the Satan's Choice members, sensing the gravity of the situation, made a hasty retreat. Some, like Camus, Blaker, and Richard, even journeyed to Kitchener, seeking assistance from David Hoffman, who was considered intelligent enough and capable of treating Camus' wound. Camus survived, but the Satan's Choice bikers now faced the law. At 11:08 p.m., Port Hope police arrived at the Queen's Hotel, finding William's lifeless body lying in a pool of his own blood. The town of Port Hope was left shaken and justifiably outraged. They demanded answers, names, and swift justice for those responsible. But as clear as it seemed who pulled the trigger, the case would take an unexpected turn. What appeared to be a straightforward proceeding unraveled into a complex web of legal maneuvers and contradictions that would capture the nation's attention. On one side, a man, Lorne Campbell, openly confessed to William's murder. On the other, the Crown appeared suspiciously hesitant to charge him, opting for a rather strange plea bargain. On February 23, 1979, 8 members of Sane's Choice were charged with William's murder, with Campbell being conspicuously absent. To spare his biker brothers from going to prison for a crime he had committed, Campbell confessed to killing William. In August 1979, the Crown offered a deal. Campbell would plead guilty to second-degree murder and serve 10 years, while the rest of the Port Hope 8 would plead guilty to being accessories and serve 4 years. Campbell, willing to accept the Crown's terms, faced resistance from co-accused like David Hoffman and Gordon. They argued they shouldn't serve prison time as they weren't even present at Queen's Hotel that night. On September 4, 1979, in London, Ontario, Crown Prosecutor Chris presented the case as first-degree murder, painting it as a foul, horrible, planned execution of William. Campbell, in a high-stakes move, took the stand, confessing to the killing and asserting the innocence of the Port Hope 8. His testimony was protected by limited immunity, but anxiety loomed about potential charges if new evidence emerged. He expressed remorse, but emphasized that his actions were instinctive in the face of a life-threatening situation. When you see somebody going for a gun and you've got one, with the upbringing I've had, you'll be fast. As soon as I said, "How are you doing?" he went for it. I totally wish he hadn't gone for it, but I'm glad I had a gun. I never questioned my decision, not once, not for a second. Campbell's defense argued that the fact he spared the 2 outlaws, Jones and Bronson, instead of killing them, was evidence of self-defense. However, the trial took yet another surreal twist. Witnesses for the Crown altered their testimonies repeatedly, and evidence contradicted itself, leading journalist Jerry Langton to label it comical. It was clear that the Crown didn't care who pulled the trigger. They just wanted as many bikers behind bars as possible. For starters, Crown witnesses testified that the gunman was left-handed, while all Port Hope 8 members were right-handed, except for Campbell, who was left-handed. At one point, Chris named Camus as the gunman, suggesting he'd been hit by a bullet that had passed through William's neck. But this theory defied physics, requiring the bullet to perform an impossible mid-air boomerang-type motion. Following ballistic reports, Chris again changed his thesis midway through the trial, now claiming that there had been 2 gunmen instead of 1, despite all witnesses consistently reporting 1 shooter. Eventually, the trial mysteriously concluded in December 1979, with 6 of the 8 accused being convicted. Oddly enough, Lorne Campbell didn't even make the list. The Port Hope 8 case attracted international attention, and eventually, between 1983 and 2000, the 6 convicted men were all freed as their sentences came to an end or they were acquitted on appeal. Just when it seemed Campbell had miraculously dodged a life sentence, fate took another dark turn. In December 1979, he was convicted of assaulting a bar owner, whom he had beaten bloody. By 1980, Campbell had finished his sentence and moved to Toronto, working as a security guard for a stripper agency. However, trouble followed him like a shadow. In 1982, a disgruntled Satan's Choice member, Patrick Roberts, sought revenge by setting fire to the Toronto clubhouse. In response, Campbell brutally beat Roberts, nearly ending his life. And in April 1983, he again faced a slew of charges, including selling cocaine, attempting to purchase explosives, and 3 counts of forcible confinement, all of which he openly admitted. To navigate his legal troubles, Campbell agreed to a plea bargain. He pleaded guilty to the charges, and the attempted murder charge related to Roberts' beating was dropped. This journey led him to prison in May 1983. Fortunately, after 14 months in Millhaven Maximum Security Prison, Campbell was transferred to Collins Bay Institution Medium Security Prison. In 1988, upon his release, Campbell resumed his role as the Oshawa chapter president of Satan's Choice. Astonishingly, he was invited as a guest lecturer at the University of Ottawa Law School to speak about the Port Hope 8 case. However, in December 1989, his loving students saw him back in handcuffs, this time facing conspiracy charges tied to cryptic code words for drug deals. Following a telephone conversation with his wife, authorities recorded him mentioning buying a used Chevrolet, which led to his arrest, as they interpreted it as a code for purchasing cocaine. In 1991, Campbell faced trial on cocaine charges and was convicted, resulting in his return to prison despite insisting on his innocence, and that he was in fact going to buy a used Chevrolet. After his parole in March 1993, Campbell found himself at the center of a lucrative yet dangerous trade, perhaps his most dangerous yet. The Canadian black market for cigarettes was thriving due to high taxes, and Campbell, like a moth to a flame, was right in the thick of it. Along with 3 fellow Satan's Choice members, he was hired as a guard for cigarette smugglers operating on the Mohawk Reservation. The money was serious, with the daily salaries ranging from $3,000 to $4,000 in cash. Their mission was to safeguard contraband cigarette shipments transported across the St. Lawrence River on high-speed boats originating from the American side. Each boat carried a cargo of approximately 80 boxes, each containing 50 cartons of cigarettes. That means that this cargo had a wholesale value of around 56,000 Canadian dollars per boatload, soaring to a staggering retail value of 320,000 Canadian dollars. The job came with its share of dangers, as rival gangs aimed to hijack these lucrative speedboats. Campbell kept a machine gun on him at all times during these treacherous river crossings, as the night waters of the St. Lawrence became a tense battleground. The cigarettes were destined for Toronto, and found buyers among Chinese and Vietnamese gangs. These buyers were quite interesting. They demanded precise punctuality, refusing any shipments that were more than 3 minutes too early or too late. However, as violence escalated on the Mohawk Reserve, Campbell sensed an impending police crackdown. Some Mohawk smugglers had brazenly attacked RCMP officers, and in a GTA-like fashion, even used assault rifles against Canadian Army helicopters. It was too much for Campbell to handle. So in 1994, Campbell decided to exit the cigarette smuggling trade where he could see the storm clouds gathering, including death threats to the mayor of Cornwall and increasingly brutal acts of violence. However, it seems as if he couldn't escape danger, since in 1995, Satan's Choice found itself in a biker war with the Loners Motorcycle Club. Campbell intervened to declare a no-war zone to prevent further escalation, even convincing the entire Keswick County chapter of the Loners to patch over to the Satan's Choice. By the summer of 1997, Campbell retired as the Oshawa chapter president, recognizing that his middle-aged self was no longer suited for the leadership role. Slowly, he began associating regularly with the Hells Angels national president, Walter Stanek. In the fall of 2000, Campbell received an intriguing proposition from Mark Stephenson, his successor as Oshawa chapter president. Walter Stanek had offered all Satan's Choice members the opportunity to join the Hells Angels on a patch-for-patch basis, allowing them to retain their current patches without a reduction in rank. Campbell gave his blessing, considering it an opportunity to be part of the biggest and best biker club in the world. December 29, 2000 marked a historic moment in Ontario's outlaw biker history, as notorious clubs like Satan's Choice, the Vagabonds, the Lobos, and others gathered at the Hells Angels Mother Chapter Clubhouse in Sorel, near Montreal. With this ceremony, they joined the Hells Angels, solidifying the Hells Angels' dominance as the premier outlaw biker club in Ontario. In May 2001, Campbell embarked on a remarkable journey to Europe, crossing the Netherlands and France to meet fellow Hells Angels. To his astonishment, he was greeted as a legendary figure, with his role in the Port Hope 8 case earning him a place of honor. Campbell's journey reached a pinnacle as he met Sonny Barger, the world leader of the Hells Angels, a moment of great honor in the realm of the club. Initially assigned to oversee the puppet club, the Road Warriors in Eastern Ontario, Campbell's journey with the Hells Angels was just beginning. He later ascended to the role of president of the Hells Angels Sudbury chapter from 2001 to 2006. During his tenure, he introduced the boxer Phillip to the Hells Angels, and a unique father-son bond emerged, with Phillip affectionately calling him Dad. Notably, during this time, an old friend, David Atwell, was working as an undercover agent. He was directed by police handlers to target Campbell, aiming to incriminate him. Atwell, however, had reservations, as he didn't believe Campbell was a significant drug dealer. Through a former member of Satan's Choice who had joined the Hells Angels, Sean Robinson, Atwell grew closer to Campbell. They even spent a weekend at Campbell's cottage in Baysville, trying with little success to catch trout. At the beginning of the end, in early 2007, while wearing a wire, Outlaw recorded conversations with Campbell about a plan to buy and sell cocaine. This led to charges of conspiracy to sell cocaine against Campbell. On April 3, 2007, Campbell was arrested based on Outlaw's testimony and wire recordings. He was charged with conspiracy to sell cocaine and denied bail, held at the Don Valley Jail. His trial began on September 13, 2010, and it would become one of the longest trials in Canadian history. The case revolved around gangsterism charges related to criminal conspiracy. It hinged on whether Campbell and others had paid off a drug debt to protect their colleague, Juicy, or if they were part of a criminal conspiracy to sell GHB. In November 2010, Outlaw took the stand as a witness for the Crown, a moment fraught with nervousness and the weight of betrayal. Ultimately, on May 22, 2011, Campbell was convicted of the cocaine conspiracy charge but acquitted of gangsterism charges. Once again, in a seemingly magical twist, the judge ruled that he had served his time given the 4 years spent in jail awaiting trial, sparing him from additional prison time. In June 2011, Campbell made the monumental decision to retire from the Hells Angels, leaving as a member in good standing. It was a profound shift, driven by a desire to prioritize family over the biker lifestyle. For too long, Campbell had placed his biker lifestyle ahead of his family, but after the last trial and the long journey he had endured, he found himself yearning for something different. It was a desire to spend more time with his daughter and granddaughters that ultimately led to his decision. Despite retiring, Campbell remained vigilant over the legacy of his past life. In September 2017, he expressed strong disapproval of a new club, daring to use the name and patch of Saint's Choice, considering it an insult to the world he had chosen to leave behind. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more like this in the future. Also leave a comment down below letting us know what you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching and have a good one.